Welcome to Cross Platform Podcast, where we discuss how to solve productivity problems across platforms. I'm Augusto Pinaud,
I'm Art Gelwicks.
and we're going to be talking about the Apple event that just happened, where iOS 16 was announced, the new Apple Watch, the new AirPods, and the Apple 14. So let's begin. Let's leave the iPhone to the end and let's begin with the watch. Um, on the watch, they announced a new version of the SE. SE is their entry level. They announced the Series 8 and the new Ultra. So the SE, it's an update. It's a significant incremental update from last year. They discontinue the third generation. And I think the only thing, I could be wrong, but the only thing they add now to the Series 8 is you have cellular connectivity internationally. That before the cellular connectivity for the watch was just inside of the United States. Now, if you have a roaming plan, you can add it um, to your watch. And I think the other thing they add, if I'm correctly, is a temperature sensing. So the watch will be able to read your temperature. I understand it's at night, most than anything, but they other than that, it's very close to what was the Series 7. So I think if you are on a 6 or less, it's worth it. If you are on a 7, I'm not sure. But then
I'm
they came,
curious.
sorry.
I'm just curious, and this is something from a watch standpoint across the board, not just Apple. I would love to know how many people have a watch that has LTE support that will go out with just the watch and not take their phone with them. I'm just curious. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or otherwise. I'm just curious how many people find that a useful use case.
And I agree with you, and I would love that too, because that was a dilemma. I'm upgrading my watch. Okay. I have a Series 3.
Hmm.
And they are not going to upgrade anymore. I mean, it's an old, a very old watch. It's 5 generations behind, but up to now has done everything I wanted to do. So I have not upgraded. So my daughter wanted one, so she's getting that one, and I'm getting the new one. So that is good. I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
But when I was going to place my order, I thought about it. Should I get the LTE or the not?
Hmm.
And the only valid reason for me to get the LTE is, as you said, leaves the iPhone behind. Okay. Will I go out just with the watch?
Hmm.
And the answer for me, I think, is no. And the only reason I can say that answer properly is the iPad Mini has data, and when I
Hmm.
take this thing out, I take the phone. And technically,
Okay.
I can do, yeah, I cannot make phone calls, but I can do FaceTime. I cannot get WhatsApp. I mean, there are not that many WhatsApp calls that
Hmm.
I get, not that many people who will call me and will not, and if I don't pick it up and it's important, will not follow with a text message, and the text message I will receive. So based on that, I say, you know what? I'm probably going to carry the phone no matter what, and I decide to
Hmm.
keep it on the Wi-Fi. But like you, I would love to hear the case for the people who leave the phone behind and now just carry that. The only two cases I know of people doing that, it is for very specific things. So I have a friend who he do a triathlon, and when he
Oh yeah.
goes on a triathlon, he leaves the phone behind because he has the comfort to know that if something
Hmm.
happened, the phone has data. But
Yes.
that's really the case that I know.
Yeah, I would just be very curious to see. Like I said, it's not one side or the other. I can imagine an opportunity, wanting to go biking and not have to have my phone with me and my watch with me. But I'd have my watch on anyway, so I just have to tuck the phone someplace because I'm not pulling it out.
Mhm.
If, and I think this is the operative thing, if you're going to have both devices, that watch has to be able to emulate a lot of the phone functions very cleanly. Control
Correct.
your music, show your mapping, show your exercise, everything like that. So you don't have to pull the phone out. Even the
Yeah.
phones, even though the phone's providing that gateway and that conduit to the data, it's it's not a necessary in your hand kind of thing. So that's
Right. And
interesting.
I have a friend who, in this discussion, exchanging text, make exactly that point. And his point was buy the LTE and if you see it until you said return it. But his point was exactly that the difference between my watch has evolved so much that I will
Mhm.
find myself using the watch a lot more than what I use it today. And it could happen. And if that happened, I'm happy to walk back to the Apple store and upgrade for the LTE version. If I found in the first 2 weeks I'm using the phone sorry, the watch that much, but I don't know.
Mhm.
So the next thing they add was what they call the Apple Watch Ultra. It's a larger watch. It's 49 millimeters. It has IP6X dust resistant, and
Okay.
it has two things that are interesting: a larger dial and a button. And part of what they
Okay.
were announcing was this watch is for people who do extreme sports, and all the marketing is around extreme sports. And one of the things
Mhm.
is you will be able to use and act and do everything with gloves. So if you are on the water, use your gloves. If you are on the mountains where
Okay.
it's very cold, use the gloves. And that was part of what they were announcing. It's 100-meter resistance instead of 50-meter resistance. Um, and it has all the whistles that the regular watch has, plus an 86 decibel siren. So if
Oh,
something
that. That's
happened to
interesting.
you, you can put the siren. But this is what I thought about it. Okay, you're going to put that thing, and I'm going to carry it. Would you want me to cut my arm so the thing is not beeping? Because I don't know. So that said, um, they add to the Series 8 of the Ultra something interesting in my perspective that it was not available on the Apple Watch until now. Okay,
Okay.
the Apple Watch battery died, and now you can see the watch until the thing is completely depleted, but that's it. Now you can set the phone in low um low consumption mode, similar to what you do
Okay.
with the phone. I don't know
Yeah.
yet, for obvious reasons. I have not get the toy. If you can choose what will work or not work. But when you put it in low consumption mode, the Ultra will last 36 hours.
That's
Okay.
not bad.
And that
It's
is
not bad.
very good. That is very good.
Not
And the
bad. How
Series
long
8, mhm,
did you see how long it takes to recharge it? Did they mention that?
they talk about fast charge. And I can,
Because that's what I'm always curious about with those is that if it's gonna last a day and a half, 2 days, something like that, that's great. But at some point, still, you need to take it off to charge it, and you're gonna lose your data capture if you're using it as a data capture device during that time period. So you have to decide, when is the operable time? Like, for example, my watch will take about 30 minutes to do a recharge, which is fine. I mean, it's perfect. If I'm sitting at my desk, I can just throw it on the charger there, and it's charged for the next day.
right.
But I'm curious how long that one takes to recharge.
Well, it doesn't say. It sadly doesn't say. Charge no, here it is. Charge time from 0 to 80%, including the Apple Series 8. No, it just does says fast charging, but it doesn't give us a time. Yeah, sadly it doesn't give a time. It just says fast charging. Of course, your fast charging may change per regions according to the official document. So if yours doesn't charge that fast, it's your
Yeah,
region.
and I'm sure it's reasonable. It's not gonna be like an
Yeah.
8-hour period. I'm sure it's gonna be a quick charge.
The charging on the watch is not bad at all. So I don't expect that it's going to be bad.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I like the fact that and in I find it interesting because all the watch manufacturers are doing this. You have a watch at this high-end athletic type that there is definitely an audience who's going to use that feature set, and there's an audience who will buy those watches for the same reason they buy big off-road vehicles that never leave the shopping mall. They buy them because they say they have them. There's a glamour aspect to it, and there's, there but that's totally fine. I mean, those are features they just added onto the Galaxy Watch 4, the watch faces from the 5, and one of them is a compass mode. I'm like, "Oh, that's really neat." Do I really need a compass turned on my watch? Nope,
Nope.
really don't.
Yeah.
But is it turned on my watch? Yes, it
Well,
is.
my kids, your kids are older, so you may have not been um, pulled to watch Cars from Pixar and Disney.
Well, I watched
Uh,
it on my own, thank you very
oh,
much.
okay, good. Then what you were describing remind me at the end. I think it was on the first movie where they are training the SUVs in the off road, and there is this
Mhm.
fancy copy of a Hummer with really thin tires
Yep,
saying, "I have never been off road."
yep. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And that's the thing, a lot of times you look at these devices, yeah, they're really cool functionality, and it's functionality that'll never be used by a particular audience, but the people who are going to use it can put it through its paces.
Well, it
Um,
is now a
it's
presumable $1,000 watch in your
oh, yeah.
wrist.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's gonna be the thing again, I gotta give Apple props on this, and Google did the same thing. By making physical aspects of that watch very visually distinctive,
Mhm.
such as that large crown, that
The
that
large
blaze
screen.
orange button on the
Yep.
side, it's going to be very easy at a distance to tell exactly which watch that is. And
Yep.
that's part of why you do that.
Well,
So,
and Apple did something this time that was very interesting. The rumors that a bigger watch was coming were out, and the rumors said it was $1,000 watch. So all the rumors, all the discussions were about $1,000, and then at the end, the watch came to cost 799. And then
okay.
what's very interesting that people say, "Oh, you see, it's way cheaper." Well, I don't know
You're getting a
about
bargain.
getting a bargain now. But well,
Yeah,
let's go to the AirPods Pro 2.
yeah.
Um, Samsung has been very active with the bots, and Apple got the AirPods, then they got the AirPods third generation, and the AirPods Pro has received no love so far. I know people with them first generation who had a lot of issues with them. So I don't know
Mhm.
if Apple was trying to fix through all those issues or what. But finally, they came with a second generation, 249, and there were two things that they seemed to be, I mean, improved component, improved sound, but there were two things that they had. One was wireless charger, and they, for the
Mhm.
first time, you are able to use the Apple Watch charger to charge this thing. That is very nice, especially for those people who have those things on the nightstand that now I can put it on top of that.
Yep.
And the second thing is they put a speaker. One of the features of the newest or most recent Apple Watch is that you can, oh, sorry, AirPods, is that you can find them. So I can
Oh, yeah.
open my watch and find my phone, and it will tell me where I lost the thing, if it's on the couch, on the car, or whatever. So,
Mhm.
but that worked with the AirPods, not with the case. So now they add the AirPods and the case.
Oh, so the case had okay, that's good.
Yeah, that was
That's
interesting.
it's nice to see that type of functionality across the manufacturers. Various different companies have the same types of things, and if you're in the Apple world, that should be a benefit of what you should have.
Well,
If you
that
misplace
also
these
made me
things that are
think
so
that the
expensive.
number of cases that are lost is very significant.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And it's so easy to do too. I mean, even I think about mine. I constantly am like, "Ooh, where'd I put it?" Because that's like laying down $200 on a table and walking off from it. So,
Yeah. Well, it is the time for some of us to get a belt and then put all the technology around like Batman, AirPods
you
in
know what?
here, it's like AirPods in
If
here.
we carry our iPad and our iPad has a fanny pack, you could put them in there.
If just we know somebody with that
Yeah,
kind of
I
fanny
don't know.
pack.
It's a brilliant idea. Somebody should start doing that. So,
So, but you see, I had experience interesting story. We went on vacation, and I took with me my bows. My bows are very old. They
mhm.
were about, I don't know, I don't remember. It was 2004, between 2004 and 2006, and I don't remember exactly when. Okay, and they work. Okay, so I have never replaced them. And I
Okay.
now don't go many places, so they stay here in the office more than anything. But I took them from the vacation, and I even had bought an adapter so they connect Bluetooth, and I don't need to wear the long cable because they were
Okay.
pre-Bluetooth days. And I used them in my vacation, and the noise canceling function continue being outstanding.
Okay.
The sound, if you are in a non that loud environment, my AirPods, in my def
Mhm.
opinion, be given there is 10 years, 14 years, 15
Sure.
years of technology. Okay. But that was because I have always looked at this product, the iPad Pro, and say, I don't need cancellation. I don't use cancellation.
Mhm.
And the few times I use cancellation, I pulled my bows.
Yeah.
Maybe it's getting the time for the bows to retire.
I do like the noise cancellation and the ambient sound capabilities of earbuds. Whatever you have, if you choose something that has those on either end of the scale, you're going to like it. Because the noise cancellation, when I took a flight recently, that just made the flight completely, bearable because it cut out all that droning noise. But ambient sound pass through keeps you connected to the world around you, and that's one of the downsides of earbuds is that you can get that lovely muffled feeling. It's one of the reasons why I know a bunch of us like the bone conducting
Mm-hmm.
headphones. Those are great for that because you
Yeah.
stay connected to the world. So I like the fact they're adding those features. Now, I don't know if it's new with the earbuds or if it's something they've had in the past. Don't they have 360 audio now? Or
Yes, but
haven't
they
they?
had it on
They've
the
had
on
that
the
in the past.
pro versions. They had it before
Okay.
too.
They
They
had that
now
before.
is improved, but it's
Okay.
interesting you mentioned the Bose connecting because on that was the other thing that I carry on the trip for. I like to listen to podcasts and programs, and
Mhm.
well, my family do not enjoy the same. I don't know why, but they want to listen to other stuff. So
Mhm.
this trip, I took those headphones, so I was able to listen all the way of the trip, what I wanted to hear, but
Mhm.
being involved into the music and this you know car riding adventure that they were having. So
Yeah, it totally makes sense, and that's the reason why I'll wear mine. If I'm outside working or something like that, I still need to be able to hear around me to be aware of the environment, or if just when we take the dogs out on a walk on the trail, it's safer to
mhm,
maintain that connection to the world around you at
yeah,
those times. So,
yeah, and that I really like about the iPods Pro. So I don't know, but well, the next thing that came is the iPhone, and I don't know, but it seems based on the recent, last couple of years iPhones, that from Apple perspective, the iPhone has reached maturity. And we're seeing the same thing with the Pixel. And really, I'm going to say that the only ones right now trying to innovate seems to be Samsung, okay, who are testing, the flip
mhm.
and the flop and all these things. But from from the other perspective, it's okay. this is a mature device, and
Hmm.
there is a little bit of improvement. There is a faster, cheaper, a little bit of the camera issue, but other than that, not much. The only thing that Apple add to this one was the bubble. There has been so much complaints about the cut of the screen from Apple.
Hmm.
And funny enough, uh, you know, it felt like Apple just put a sticker on top of the thing. Oh, you don't like the thing? Okay, fine. Let me make it larger, and I will
Yeah.
give you the impression that it grows, so you don't think is this cut, but you think is something that is very useful.
Hmm. I have to say, I was kind of intrigued when I saw that ad for the first time, that dynamic island. I'm like, okay, so you finally found a way to make it not look like a hole punch at the top.
Correct.
Which I got to give them credit. That's a smart way to do it. If it feels like it's an interactive component and it has a purpose for being there, I'm kind of okay with that. How they use it and how they apply it, because Apple has such control over their OS, they can really control that user experience. I don't
Right.
think it works as well on Android because Android has so many different configurations for that
Oh
little
yeah.
punch out there. I mean, even when you look at like Samsung ones, the latest Fold gets rid of it completely because it shoots through the display. But Apple can standardize around that and say, "Oh, okay, here's we're making it do more than just sit there and be this little black hole up here." I'm okay with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, the other thing that Apple did with this phone, this is the first phone who had satellites compatibility for emergencies. So even if you get to a place where you have no signal, the phone had a capability to connect with the satellite, send an emergency message, and Apple saying that they have some center who can receive the message and forward the message and these kind of things.
Mhm.
So this technology is new and interesting. I um, Somebody asked me if I see a use for that. I said, I don't know. I don't. But I don't do camping. I don't do. I stay here in my four walls and my laboratory. And as my wife said at the beginning of the pandemic, we have discovered after 16 years that your lifestyle is called pandemic. You are the only human being in this world that is very happy that he don't need to go outside of the
Oh,
world.
no, me too, brother. Me too. I'm quite happy that way.
So so I don't see myself in any of those extreme satellite conditions.
Yeah, I like I like the fact that they're playing with that. I have a bone to pick with Apple over the fact that, okay, if you're gonna do that, why can't you put RCS into Messenger and just into
because
iMessage?
that
And
is complex.
it's not, you can hook to a freaking satellite, but you can't make the damn green bubble go away. Okay.
A matter of budget. We have
Oh.
budgets only for the satellite part. Sorry.
I'm telling you, man, there's times I so much want to like them. I really try. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm like, what are you doing?
But you
But
see, but I love that Android instead of how I said this, instead of continue making their users having a poor experience because of Apple. Okay, because
Mhm.
what was happening was I like your thing, and then you receive a message, text message. Augusto liked the thing. Okay, I love the fact that Android people went and said, okay, fine, Apple is not going to fix it for whatever reason. Let's fix it
Mhm.
ourselves
Yeah.
and solve the issue because that, as an Apple person who has Apple devices, I think it was the higher ground on this battle. And in my opinion, Android won the battle. Fine, you're not doing it because fine, we will do it. And then eventually we will apply it back to you so your message reads, art
I think
like it.
I agree with you. I think they should do that just to mess with the messages. So, but that's me being petty. Um, but
And the last
to
thing
go
we
back,
have, sorry,
I
sorry
was
to
going to
go
say
back.
to go back to the satellite thing. If they get this locked down and they get it figured out and it works solid in the phones, which is a natural, logical place to extend this to, I would not be shocked if it does work successfully. We will see this in the high end iPads. There would definitely be, to me, there's a more of a use case there than there is in the phones.
Not only that, I think if this works, may not be 15, maybe 16 or 17, you will see the iPhone Ultra where use 100% satellite.
Could be. Could be. That's going to put that well, here's an interesting play, and this is me being conspiracy theory. If they can go 100% satellite, they can eliminate the carriers.
Correct.
That's a big deal. They could go direct, they could skip the carriers 100%. They could provide their own connection there, their own data, their own transfer. That's a huge step to take it away from the carriers. And if they can make this work, they're not
And
that far from doing it.
and I'm going to say historically, those are the kind of challenges that Apple enjoy and excel on it.
Yes, I will give them that.
Okay.
They
On
do.
on
Yeah.
changing industries that way,
Mm-hmm.
when that's the kind of things, that's what they did with the music industry. You can't complain all that you want, but they did it with the conditions at the time. What they did was a brilliant movement with iTunes. Oh, fine. You music industry are really upset about this one. We are going to get together and fight against Napster. This is the solution. Sign up
Mm-hmm.
on it. Okay. And the industry of the music as we know it will never be the same. And they did
Very
it
true.
brilliantly. Okay. Brilliantly. I mean, that I remember that commercial of the first iPod. Okay. It was made, it was said, the line was, you can hold 1,000 songs on your pocket.
Yep.
Man, wow. Because the problem is for everyone who had music at that time, okay, 1,000 songs was, if you have tapes, okay, that was a ridiculous amount of tapes or CDs or MP3s. I had at that time a Sony mini disc, it was, that you can record MP3s on it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a mini disc, but it's still 2,000 songs. You need a bunch of them.
Yeah. And that's when you're going to disrupt something that heavily, you've got to take a risk. And if they're thinking they can disrupt the carrier play, then yeah, they have to take a risk on this. You can't use Wi-Fi for it. That was actually the conversation that was had a while ago. Could you do pure Wi-Fi calling? And it's just never reached the saturation point.
Mhm.
But satellite is something that parks itself in the right spots, and it gets rid of things like, the last mile connectivity issue and that sort.
Not only
So you're
that,
talking about
for
a device now that's much more friendly to rural areas and much more friendly to lower population areas. Different
and you
beast.
can make it high end, and the market will play with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's the thing is that they are clearly not trying to say that this is a commoditized device. This is a very niche device, and this is going to be targeted to a specific audience
Mhm.
as a testing bed for this technology. It's going to be a long time before we see that satellite type technology if it works out completely in lower end Apple devices, but it doesn't need to.
But it
That's not
doesn't
its
need to,
target.
right? They don't. That's not the target they're going to try to go. And then the last thing that was announced, as far as I made notes, was iOS 16.
Hmm.
And again, iOS. So two things. Apple did something that they have not done before. So we need to remember that Apple launched the iPad, and the iPad used the same operating system as the phone, and then
Hmm.
they eventually split it into iOS and iPad OS. But even with the split, the release were exactly at the same time.
Hmm.
This time they announced that they're not releasing at the same time. They released in iOS 16 for the phones, that was released on September the 12th. And they said on further date, we will release 16.1 that will be compatible with iPads. And that was unexpected from the rumor sites and the people. And the iOS part for the iPhones, again, it's a cool update, but it goes back to what I said at the beginning with the iPhone. It seems like, okay, we reached maturity. Yeah, let's improve it a little bit more. I will give you a couple of things, but it's just a little bit more stable, more solid, a little
Hmm.
bit faster, but nothing revolutionary per se.
This is that point with the operating systems where you have to say, okay, what's next? What would be the big change that they could make that would, you know, alter the game? When you look at what, for example, is happening on the Android side, there aren't huge game changers happening
Correct.
at the OS level. There are variants on top of it. There's what Samsung has done with their taskbar for, you know, larger devices and things like that. There's the tablet mode, but it's difficult at the operating system level, something that has to span so many devices to really I think about it a lot. I don't know what would be the next really cool feature. What would be the game
Mhm.
changer? What would change the metaphor? Everything we look at is hardware. It's not software that would change it. It's some foldable phones or rollable phones or whatever. But none of that's software. The software would drive it. The software would make it worthwhile, but I don't know of any software that's going to change the game. And
Correct.
even at the OS level, it's the same thing.
Yep. So we will see what happened with all this, but in the
So,
meantime,
was
that
there
was the event.
anything was there anything in the event that you, one, were really impressed by, and two, really disappointed by?
I was very impressed by the Ultra. I was not the target market, but it was a very well defined target market, and that's not usual on Apple.
Okay.
Okay. For example, Apple has those Mac Pros, sorry, ridiculous, super high end for designers and people who do graphics. Okay, but they don't sell them that way. They sell them more like, oh well, we have this. No, no, no. Sorry, for the average user, the $10,000 machine, it's out of their possibilities.
Mhm.
Okay. This time they came with the Ultra in a very specific target. Okay. Yes, it has this thing, it has this big button, it's orange. This is for what this watch is designed for. We are not
Okay.
trying to sell this to you or me, or this is
Right.
only for this market. That was a different thing than Apple, normal Apple. Okay. It's not that they, it's not that it is rare that they do a niche device. It's rare that they market it as a niche device.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it was very disappointing that the iPad OS 16 was not out on the same day, and it was very interesting because they make the conscious effort to not make noise about iOS 16. iOS 16 was launched on September the 12th, but it was not mentioned in the keynote. It was kind of, we're going to release this here, but we're not going to make any noise. I don't know why. And it was, I will have loved that Apple, maybe not on the event, maybe on a press release, something went into more
Mhm.
of what and why as a fan, because well, now you have me my phone in this latest operating systems, and then my iPads are still waiting. Again, you have always keep them together, so why you didn't hold this one to whatever date in October you
Yeah,
are
I
going to
wonder if
release
they
the
have
iPad?
something special they're working on for the iPads or
Well,
something
there
they
are
just
rumors that there are new iPads coming in October, so my educated guess is that they're waiting to announce with that,
that could be.
but that's a
I
guess.
would not be shocked about that at all. So,
So
I think we're truly getting to the point, and we've talked about this a little bit in other episodes. I think we're getting to the point now where tablets can truly be considered a laptop alternative in many cases. Not just iPads, but the highest end, Android tablets. I think really there was an interesting article I was reading today that we may be looking at the end of the two-in-one device and looking at detachable keyboards and that tablet configuration as the desirable laptop configuration. I I don't yes and no. I think there's upsides and downsides to both. I mean, they don't really sit
Mhm.
well on your lap, but as as a viable platform, yeah, I think they're there. And I think the
And
software is driving it too.
and I'm going to agree with that you said on the lab on 19% of the keyboards,
Mhm.
because that's one thing that that magic keyboard for the iPad did. That it was that cantilever mode
Mhm.
really allows you to put the thing on the lap like you will have done it with a laptop.
Yeah,
It's the
and that
only one I have found that do that.
that does make a huge difference.
Yeah,
If you find that you do use your device in that configuration, that stability will make or break its use. I
yeah,
mean, it's simple.
yeah.
Even
And
just regular cases and regular configurations, if you cannot get that device into a position where it's comfortable, you're not
yeah,
going to use it. You're not going to use it in that way.
yeah, there is another brand. I don't know if you're familiar with it called Bridge,
Yes.
Brydge, and they do for keyboards for some of the Chromebooks and the Surface. And what their keyboards are not cheap, but what they do is they really work well into getting that tablet into
Mhm.
a laptop form that you can use on your lap too. But again, it's a matter of the keyboard now. If find one that will allow you to do that very well.
Yeah, and that's always the battle. I mean, it comes down to no matter what device you have, there's two things that will make or break that device. One is the display, two is the keyboard.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just it's funny because my wife has one of the antique style keyboards with the raised keys, like the old typewriter style, and she really likes it, and it's neat and it's very much her style. I can't type on it to save my life. Just would not happen. I mean, it I am slower than hunt and peck on that thing. And there's just something about it, and it just wouldn't work. Me, I like the real short, flat
Mhm.
laptop configured keys. I always have. So you have to find something you're comfortable with, and it can have a huge impact on not only how well your system works, but how productive you actually are on your system.
I
So,
am, and we will bring this in a future episode. But when I make some changes and turn back the iPad Mini into the main machine, and we will talk about that in another episode. And the first thing I did was let's figure out the keyboard, because if this is going to be
yeah.
the main machine for simple things, it was. And the decision went obviously to a bridge because of that. The high end, I get it that they're not cheap, but the quality of the typing is worth in for me.
Yeah, and that's really it's one of those things that don't skimp on it. I mean, it get a good monitor, have a good keyboard. I would say the third thing then is just make sure you have a really good mouse. The rest of it you can kind of figure it out. But those are your interface pieces.
Mhm.
That's where the system meets you and you meet the system. And if those are struggle points, your whole system's going to be
Yeah,
difficult.
it's very difficult. But well, with this, follow us where you like to listen to podcasts, like us or subscribe to us and leave us a review. You can also interact with us on personalproductivity.club. We are Augusto Pinaud and Art Gelwicks, and see you next time from your favorite device. Oh, and before, oh, I don't have it here. I was going to show
Oh
to
yeah.
the people who watch us on YouTube that but I will show it next week. We
Mhm.
have gear now for cross platform, and I have one of the water bottles, but I don't have it in front of me. So I will have it for the next episode 71 next week. So
Yep.
thank you very much.